on this 5th video in my series on emotions, I believe it was very important to first talk about what emotions do for us, how they benefit us, why they're important, how they're good, how they're God-made and given, and also that God has emotions. I believe all of those were important things to establish before moving into what we do with our emotions. How do we express our emotions? How do we get them out, since it's so important and vital to do so. So that is what I've done on the last 3 videos, and in moving into this one, before we really move into the how-tos and what do I do with my emotions and all of that, I think it's really important we also explore together and individually reasons why we have hesitated to share emotions. Are you someone that freely shares your emotions and have always felt that permission, or know now that permission to do so? Wonderful if you do, but so many of us are not in that place, and we need to be set free to do that. So I've established more of the truth, but I think it's important to also make sure we know what maybe false things or even valid reasons why we don't share our emotions or feel safe to share our emotions, or we just haven't had that permission to do so. So that is what I want to do on this video. Okay, I'm going to share ones that I came up with just simply and briefly, and different reasons that I came up with, and then I'm going to move into Gina Moffa, okay, and her book and things. She has 7 reasons why that either we don't or we don't feel safe to share our emotions, feelings, okay? So with that, as you hear these, please comment and let me know if one of them resonates with you. Maybe you right away go, yep, that was me, that's what happened to me in my upbringing, or that's what I ended up believing about emotions, or all of a sudden you have an aha, oh, wow, that does apply to me. In this video, I would really, really like to hear that. And also please like this video, because that helps it to go out. Push that like button, okay? So before something that Gina Moffa said that flows back into my other videos, I just want to say it up front to say why we're so serious about this, why it's so important. And she says feelings are a huge part of our grief, and that those feelings can be trapped inside of us. Trapped. If something's trapped, that means it can't get out, or it doesn't know how to get out, right? So I like that she said it that way. They can be trapped inside of us, and we need to come to an understanding to where we can open that trap and let them out, and feel safe to let them out, and know why it's important to let them out, and that they are okay to be let out. Doesn't mean they're fun. Doesn't mean it's easy, because it's a lot of times not. But that's all the more reason we need to know and be assured that they are important and that they're part of our grief. Okay, so I wanted to say that, and then there's one other quote that I read in her book that I want to refer back to that she says, if we reflexively move away from our feelings, we will miss something meaningful that needs to be attended to. We will miss something meaningful that needs to be attended to. So that's one way she says it, okay? So it is very important to know why we tend to suppress them. So I'm going to go to my list first. And, okay, this is in order, the way I put them, not necessarily in a certain order. It can be scary to share our emotions. We can be afraid of what's inside of us. If we're struggling with anger, that may look more obvious. But sadness can be scary. Depression or anything else that we're going through can be scary. And so we don't want to let them out. So that was one thing I wrote down. Another thing is it hurts or it's painful to share those emotions. Just like I said, it's not fun. It's painful. When it's heart-wrenching, and I've had those times where my heart, it was just like, my head was almost like, what in the world's going on with my heart? Oh my gosh, this is painful. Thankfully, I knew that it was important to get that out and express it, and that it would lift and it would soften after that. It would, they wouldn't last forever, and we're going to talk about that too. But they can be uncomfortable. Emotions can be uncomfortable, painful, and hurt. They can actually hurt when they're stuffed inside and they start to come out. So that could be a very, very normal reason why we stuff them, okay, or keep them inside or don't release them. Another one is that we're taught not to give honor to the emotions. We've talked about that should not be true. That should not be happening, but we were taught not to give honor to them. Okay. Another reason is they're inconvenient. Now that can be one of the more correct reasons, a definitely correct reason to not always release them at the time, but later allow them and not to stifle them forever, because it's inconvenient at that moment, maybe when they're trying to come up. I have other videos on that. We're going to get into that more. So, but I just want to say that's another reason. That's a good reason. Another good reason is that we're not ready. We're just not ready. It's too overwhelming. It's too much. Or we're focusing on other things we have to get done. So that could be another valid reason. Another reason could be it's confusing. The confusing task of feeling our feelings. It can be confusing. That could be another reason why we don't express them. Or we believe, or we've been taught, that they don't matter. No one cares about our feelings, that part of our grief. I've been there, for sure. And I've been vulnerable to, not all the time, but I've been vulnerable a few times. And it came back to bite me, if you could say it that way. It didn't go well. Maybe at first the person was compassionate and empathetic, but then, something came out in the conversation and I didn't feel safe with that person anymore, with the deep stuff coming out of me. So all of those can be real reasons. And so it's not time is what I kind of said already. That's another reason. When it's not time, one thing that Gina says is that grief will be there when you're ready. So when you're ready to get it out and it's time and so forth, it'll be ready to come out, because it does need to come out at some point. So, and then the last reason I wrote down kind of rolls right into her reasons. And I wrote down, it's too dangerous, it's not safe. And you could say, well, that could kind of go with scary. True. But maybe some people are scared of it, but they're not feeling, they are in a position where they're all around safe in their relationships and in their situation. But then we can be in situations in the relationships and things like that where it's not safe to share. It's too dangerous to share, to let them out in front of that people, that situation, what have you. Okay, so her 7 reasons, the way she calls it, is reasons why we may not want to express our emotions, or we may not feel safe enough to feel our feelings. Okay, so I'm going to get into those now. Before I do go into those, I want to make sure I recognize her book. Moving On Doesn't Mean Letting Go. A Modern Guide to Navigating Loss by Gina Moffa, LCSW, and licensed social worker, and she's more than that. So I found this book at my library when I was looking for book options to teach a class on grief and loss at my church. And we decided not to go with this one because it is not faith-based. And I found another wonderful book on scars, blanking out on the title, but that one was wonderful. And I may refer to that other times in the future. But this one really has touched me, and the way she writes it. And she goes, and especially because she goes a lot into emotions and feelings, more than I've seen the other experts that I've learned from do, and what have you. And so I finally bought this. This is actually one my husband found online for me. So, I was like, kept reading hers, and I was like, I wish I could be underlining this and making, comments off on the side like I like to do in books that I'm into and that I'm going to teach on too, and I couldn't do that, so I got my own. So that's how much I liked it. So her first reason that she says for not feeling safe or wanting to, express our emotions is, and I've paraphrased these just so you know, first reason has to do with our upbringing. In our upbringing, we're taught to stifle or stop expression. I could go on and on about any one of these probably, and if you relate to that, whether you were literally reprimanded or punished per se, or just told over and over again that, that you should not express your crying, you shouldn't cry. Boys sometimes more, but it could be girls too. Boys don't do that. Anything like that. That is definitely a very, very common and real reason that many people don't. Maybe they did at the beginning as a child, and then they stopped because of what they were taught or the consequences they were given. So, or any negative emotion. It might be for any negative emotion, right? So that's definitely a big one right there, right? And then the second one is you were taught only weak people show sadness or fear. Only weak people. So do you want to be weak? Especially if they said you don't want to be weak, you want to be strong, right? You got to be strong. Sometimes kids that had loss or other things happen, divorce, and they're the oldest and a lot of responsibilities put on them. Maybe that's you. And you were taught that you shouldn't, maybe your brothers and sisters below you were allowed to do that, but you weren't because you had to be the strong one. A lot of adults experience this in situations, but children do too. And they think they got to be the strong one. And sometimes they take that on themselves with no prodding from parents or anybody else, but they just do. So that is another valid reason. The third reason is that you were taught that feeling emotions wouldn't fix anything. That you were taught that feeling emotions wouldn't fix anything. Therefore, emotions were not useful. Okay, that's not as hard as the other ones, but if you think emotions aren't going to fix anything, and somehow that came across, or you just learned it by your own situations, and you made a kind of a judgment out of that to say that, well, when I express them, it doesn't do any good, so they're not useful. That's a very, very, very common one, even more than the other ones, I would say. So, do you relate to that? Do you relate to any of these so far? Please let me know. So the next one is you feel afraid to begin to express because you're afraid that you're never going to stop. The emotions aren't going to stop, or you're not going to know how to stop them. Crying, sobbing, you're just afraid to let it out. No, I don't want to do that in front of others. What are they going to think about me? Or I don't think they're going to ever stop because I can tell they're so intense inside of me and they just may never stop, so I'm just never going to let them out. The anger or any of this, right? The sadness, the depression. So that could be another reason we're afraid that they're never going to stop. And they will. By the way, they will. They are temporary. And here's the next one that relates right into that one, is you don't know the temporary nature of emotions and that they don't last forever and that you will survive them. You will survive them. Oh man, it can seem so tense, intense, and overwhelming and heart-wrenching. Got any other emotions or words you want to use with that? Those are ones I'm thinking of. It can be so much that you don't think, again, it's going to stop or lessen, but they do. And sometimes I tell myself, this too shall pass, and to recognize that in your mind and heart can help to know that they are temporary, they aren't going to last forever. And the more you express and get good, healthy help with them and process them with help or in a group or at home because you're journaling, because that can be such a wonderful way to do it, or through art. If you learn to do that, they will lessen. or soften, or sometimes even go away eventually. I can't promise exactly what with when, but that is going to happen. So, if we don't think, if we've never learned that, then we, again, may avoid them, right? So, another one that she says is, if feeling emotions is unacceptable for whatever reason, because you've deemed them unacceptable, others have told you they're unacceptable, then you could think that if you express them, then you are unacceptable. And you don't want to be unacceptable, you want to be accepted. I know I do. I definitely want to be accepted. I'm not trying to be accepted by everybody. I've got my faith, and I'm not going to renounce it, and I want to be true to myself, but I want to be accepted. So I love a Bible verse that says, I'm accepted in the beloved. And so, but maybe you just don't, because you don't think they're acceptable, so if you express them, you'll be unacceptable. So that's another specific reason that she gives. And I think it's good sometimes to have a lot of specific reasons, right? So the last one that she mentions, actually it wasn't the last one in the way her list is, but I'm mentioning it last for a reason, because it leads into our next videos that'll be coming up, is you didn't see any example in your life on how to feel painful emotions. It can be as simple as that you didn't see any example, or somebody showing you how to do it. And maybe that wouldn't come from your family, but maybe it came from somebody at church, like a leader at church who was vulnerable to show their emotions, and you saw that example. It could be just one person in your life, a coach or anybody, a friend who was able to express emotions and show you that you could do that. That would encourage you, right? So it doesn't take necessarily everybody to do that in your life for that to impact you and give you permission to share your emotions. But if you didn't have that example in your life, and you don't know what to do with them when they come up, is exactly how she said it, which totally goes into what do we do with our emotions. As I've said, this series is titled, is you don't know what to do with them when they come up, then maybe sometimes you do, maybe sometimes you don't, but you still may not be getting them all out because you don't know what to do with them. So I chose that one for last from her list, so that I can say, I hope to unpack that in future videos. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert or I'm perfect or I know all this up ahead. I'm learning as I go too. Okay, so with that, what I do share, I'm going to confidently share, but I am open to hearing suggestions from you all or requests. I always want to say that, because this channel is for you. Whoever's viewing this, whoever ends up viewing this later, it is for you, okay? Yeah, it helps me because I learn, and I'm a teacher, and I share sometimes, and sometimes I'm getting my own emotions and story out. But overall, this is for you, so I want this channel to be beneficial to you. So if you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 right now, getting pretty close to it. And that opens up other opportunities when I do to further this channel and add captions in and things like that more. So I hope you heard me on that and know that I care and would love your feedback. I love comments, and I try to always read them and get back to you as well, because that matters a lot to me. So do any of these make sense to you? Do you realize that one of them, or more than one of them, applies to your upbringing or applies to your belief system, or some of them have happened totally in adulthood? It's totally, we're all different. Our stories are different. Our lives are different. We're different. So everybody's unique. We're not trying to make any rules here. Those are just food for thought, and that can help us to realize what the problem is. And then we can hone in on that and kind of go back to maybe my other videos and watch them, so that we can say, well, I wasn't taught how to express them. So now Julie's empowering me to express them. So here I go. Let me watch the other videos and learn how. I was taught to stifle them, okay, or that there's no benefit to them, and my other videos talk about how there is benefits and what their benefits are, and you can really hone in on those benefits so that you get that, and it gives you permission to express and helps you make room for your emotions. Okay, so I'm so glad you've joined me on this video, and again, I hope you go back and watch the first ones and continue on the series. I have a playlist, and the playlist link is in the description of this video. So that is the easiest way for you, just to go to the playlist, put it, benchmark it somewhere, and be able to just see them as they go in there, or subscribe and hit the bell so that you see the uploads as they come in, or both ways. But I do have them. I am making playlists now so that it's easy for you to keep up on these videos and then in the order that they're coming to. But you can watch any of them without. It's not an absolute have to that you have to watch these in order, but it's recommended if you can, or if you started with this video, go back. Okay? So, but it's all for whatever helps you to move through your grief, to move through your mourning, mourning, to move forward, to be able to process and get healthy, and let the unhealthy diminish and the healthy rise up, and to have peace, and just find healing in time, and find peace in time, and for the pain to soften. I can say so many different things, but these are all things we want to do because you're worth it. You're worth it for you to have self-care. You're worth it for you to watch these videos and other videos of other people that may be helpful to you. You're worth it to apply it. You're worth it to get a counselor or a coach, which I am a life coach, and I do a free consult, and that link is in the description as well. Every video I have that link in there that you can, no obligation to go further with me. You can just set up that one time through Zoom or in person if you're in the Tampa Bay area. But you're worth it to get the help that you need from a therapist or whatever you need. Every one of us are different. Whatever you need, you are worth it. And I'm telling you, it's going to be worth the investment of your time and your money, or whatever it is you got to invest. Because that grief is going to come out somewhere in your health, cause you lots of money and health issues, or just be miserable in life. It's going to hurt your relationships. It's going to come out. So let's learn to do it in the right way. Okay, I look forward to walking through this more with you on the next several videos. God bless you. I'm Julie Kay, helping you find your way through grief and loss. Bye-bye.